Good morning. This is Lars Olson, and this is today's Quiet Echo. The morning after the storm, my parking lot was full before I had even unlocked the front door. By the time I flipped the sign around to open, there were a dozen men standing out on the walk, waiting. And I knew, without a single one of them saying it, what nearly every last one had come in for. Chainsaw chains, bar oil, gas cans, the red plastic kind, the 2-gallon and the 5, tarps, the blue ones, by the dozen, work gloves, heavy outdoor extension cords, 50 feet and 100, ratchet straps, batteries. A man does not need a written list for a morning like this one. The storm writes the list for him. And the whole town walks in carrying the very same one. The weather service called it a derecho. I will be honest with you, I had to look up how to even say the word. The wind came across the middle of the country last week at near 90 miles an hour, and it knocked the power clean out for more than 500,000 homes. Ours was one of them. By the time the rain finally let up, there were trees down on roofs, and lines down across the roads, and a kind of quiet sitting there in the dark. You do not soon forget. Now, you saw this storm on the news. I am sure you did. You saw the satellite picture, the big red and purple blob sliding its way across the map. You saw the number of homes without power scroll on by, and the flight delays at the airport in the city. The news is very good at the night of a storm, but the news is not there for the morning after. It does not keep a camera at my counter, which is the one place the real story of a storm actually gets told. One customer at a time, for the next 3 solid weeks. By the second day, my store had quit being a hardware store and turned into something more like the town square. Men stood around the chains and the gas cans, trading reports. Whose road was still blocked? Whose power had come back on? Who had a generator to spare for a night? Who was out there alone and ought to be checked on? I never plan a bit of it. It just happens, every single time. People need a place to find one another after a storm, and somehow, the place always turns out to be mine. So let me tell you what the news missed. The very first man through my door did not buy a chainsaw chain for his own tree. He bought it for the widow who lives 2 houses down from him, whose big maple had come through her porch roof in the middle of the night. The second man bought himself a second gas can because his generator was already running an extension cord across the back fence, to the house next door, where a fellow keeps his insulin cold in the refrigerator. And a woman came in and bought up every last tarp I could fit into her cart, and she would not tell me whose roofs they were going on. This is the part you only ever get to see from behind a counter like mine. A storm does not just knock things down. A storm shows you, in one single hard morning, exactly who in a town knows how to do a thing with his hands and who is willing to go do it for somebody else. I have run this store for 40 years now. I have opened up the morning after more storms than I could ever count for you. And it is always the very same, and it always manages to surprise me. I should be used to it by now. I am not. This town, I serve the one I sometimes quietly worry, has plain forgotten how to fix anything at all, turns out to be full of people who own a chainsaw, and know exactly how to run it, and will go and spend a whole Saturday on a tree which is not even theirs. And here is something else. Half the men standing in my line had never once run a chainsaw for anything heavier than firewood. By noon they had the hang of it, because somebody had to, and because the man working right next to them already knew how, and showed him. A skill spreads awful fast in a town the morning it is finally needed. It is the emergency system nobody ever puts down on a map. It is not the one with the sirens on it. It is the one made up of the neighbor who owns the chainsaw, and the neighbor who owns the generator, and the plain willingness to go and walk it on down the block to somebody who needs it. Now, the county will send out its crews. The power company will send out its crews. And they will get to the big main lines first, the way they ought to. And the little side streets, they are going to have to wait. But in the waiting is exactly where a town finds out what it is truly made of. And we are made, it turns out, of one another. So here is the practical part. Because I am, at the end of the day, a practical man. Buy the chainsaw before the storm comes, not the morning after, when I am already sold out of chains. Keep a gas can full out in the garage. Learn how to start the generator on a calm, sunny day and not by flashlight, in the pouring rain. And know, before you ever need to, which neighbor of yours keeps medicine cold, and which one of them lives all alone. The wind, it will come again. It always, always does. So be the kind of house your whole street can count on when it finally does. Cedar Valley News has a group on Facebook. If you have something to add, you are welcome there. Tell us who showed up for you after the storm, or whose tree you cut yourself. I will put the link in the show notes. This is Lars Olson, your host for today's Quiet Echo. Thanks for listening. Quiet Echo is part of the fictional Cedar Valley News series, written by Evan Swenson, publisher, and Claude Marshall, AI developmental editor. While the people in town of Cedar Valley are fictional, the June 2026 derecho described in this episode, and the power outages it caused across the Midwest, are real.
You've been listening to the Cedar Valley News Podcast, where small-town voices meet the headlines shaping our world. From faith and family to front porches and fields. We'll be back with more stories connecting real lives to real events. Until next time, keep your porch light on, your faith strong, and your heart open. This is Cedar Valley News.